On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very exclusive treat. She's a beacon of power, doctor of psychology, leading expert, author, and coach who has helped an abundance of women break out of their misery patterns. No big deal. She specializes in such topics as mental healing, self-love, relationships, and midlife, just to name a few. Unlike many other experts, she doesn't believe midlife must be tied to a crisis. And she offers an alternative narrative that guides women to strive in midlife and enjoy it into the absolute fullest. Big facts. She's created a sanctuary for women to rediscover their passion, purpose, and power, and her mission to challenge social norms, shattering misconceptions about aging, and celebrate the beauty and wisdom that comes with experience. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific mother and wife. Please welcome the paradigm shifter, the passionate, beautiful, and brilliant, the abundant, Dr. Amanda Hanson. How you doing, Doc?
Oh, thank you so much, Craig. Well, after hearing all that, I'm doing really well. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'm so happy I did good by you. We were having an unbelievable conversation before we hit record, and I was like, we should probably save this juicy stuff. So much alignment. I love your work. And for our listeners now, my best suggestion, in case you're not familiar, is to do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the unbelievable content she has going on. Do a deep dive. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation and hit on some really important topics. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
Let's do it.
What is your superpower?
My superpower is presence.
Like mindfulness?
When I'm here doing this podcast interview, there was no world before or after. I'm here. I'm locked and loaded with all five senses.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that. I love it. And same. I'm not worried about my dog going crazy in the other room or an interview later or what happened 30 minutes ago. It's just me and you. And what I discovered by being so present and in the moment and just transferring resonances, that's where the magic happens. That's where you can really connect, build a rapport, get deep. And based on my experience over the last couple of years, that mindfulness becomes that portal for expansion.
Absolutely, because I see so many people living in the past with regret and in the future with worry. But 99% of what's happening right here and now, they're missing. They're missing the beautiful moments now, and all the rest of it figures itself out. Be here now.
Yes, this is so relatable because I spent a very long time, more than I like to admit, in that exact frequency, anxious about the future, depressed about anywhere but the present. And then the pandemic was kind of that forced pivot where I finally got quiet and began to reassess. And that's what I was able to put it all together and realize that I had a choice. But you probably know better than I do. Like, how would you encourage someone that right now is like, oh, she just nailed it. That's me. I can't seem to escape that. I'm anywhere but in the moment. What could they do?
Absolutely. What I advise people to do right then and there, when you catch yourself in the future, in the past, right then and there, if you take your hands and like even just place them on your chest, feel your heart beating, feel the air moving through your lungs, and then use your five senses. This is the easiest way to get right in. Pick one of your five senses. Right in that moment, your eyes are closed or your eyes are open, your hand is on your heart. What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I touch? Going through all five senses brings you right here, laser focused into this moment. And that's just a way to start training your system to be here now and bring yourself into this exact moment.
So good. And what I've been teaching a lot of people also in my community recently is like, a good way, at least for me, to get out of a rut, because spoiler, they all, we're human, once a day, maybe, whatever the case may be. Immediately I do this instead of like, let's win the day, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's just win the next activity, right? And let's be so present in that moment and just give it everything we got and act as if we don't know when we'll get this opportunity again. And then you begin to stack those. And all of a sudden, over the course of the day, you forget about what was troubling you. You're doing a really, really good job at those activities. And then you begin to cultivate momentum.
Absolutely. And then the whole thing feels like one big playground in that energy.
Oh, love that you said that. Playground. Yeah, this is so good. There's so many places that we can take this conversation, and I wanna make the most of every single second. Looking at your content, which I highly suggest everybody do immediately, I saw you talking about a bunch of different things. One of them that I thought was really cool is that you mentioned to ask yourself, do I really think that? Or have I been conditioned to think that? And I just thought that was so powerful. And I think that's a universal topic that if you unpack, can help everybody listening today.
Absolutely. It happened for me when I was approaching 40, 10, 11 years ago. And I was sitting in the hair salon and I saw, just another activity. I'd gotten my hair colored for 10 years at that point, covering up the grays. And I had this very unusual moment. And to this day, I'll never know exactly what happened. But I was on my phone and I looked up and I started to scan the room. And I had this question in my head of, what are we all doing? What's actually happening here? Do every one of us as women, are we fully convinced? And then I turned it on myself. Am I fully convinced that I need to be here putting this toxic chemical on my scalp that gets absorbed into my bloodstream to be worthy, to be relevant, to be beautiful, to not be invisible? Do I actually believe that? And when I really mined for the gold, my answer was no, I don't believe that, but I sure as hell did absorb it from toxic beauty culture and from a world that says that a woman over a certain age is just as good as tossed to the side. And so I think when you mine for that gold, you start to realize, and I have clients do this in our very first session every single time, make a list of what you believe it means to be a woman, what you've learned about being a woman. And then we go through them one by one, and we look at how paralyzed they have become in their own lives by absorbed beliefs, not beliefs that they fundamentally held inside, but they never questioned them. They were walking around in the world thinking that it was their own belief. That's how hard it becomes to tease out what is mine, what have I been programmed by from this toxic society.
It's unbelievable. Without mentioning names, of course, what are some of the common ones that you hear? Because I imagine the listeners right now think, oh my God, that's how I've been thinking. Maybe that's not really me. Maybe I've just been conditioned. What are some of the ones that tend to surface?
Yeah, some of the ones that tend to surface for women, because I work primarily with women,
Yes.
is I'm not a mother. These are all fall under the I'm not worthy. I'm a failure. I'm not a mother. I'm not married. I got divorced. I weigh too much. I don't have big enough breasts. I don't love to have sex. I'm too old. My skin is too saggy. On and on and on. It just goes on and on and on. Women should be pleasing at all times. Women should be subservient. Women should be good Christians, all these things, or if I like sex too much, something's wrong with me. Or if I'm too opinionated, then I'll never get invited to any parties anymore. I mean, women are plagued with all these rules, I don't even know where the hell they came from, who wrote them, but women are plagued. And when you're plagued with rules that often hold the exact opposite of the rule that you're following, it also has the inverse. You can see how you're just paralyzed almost all the time. And so I see woman after woman after woman walking around in so much self-doubt and so much self-questioning in her head that she doesn't get anything accomplished in her life that really is for her, because she's so worried about what everyone else thinks of her. So the safest lane to stay in for a woman, self-sacrifice. Because we've been touted that that's the gold medal of being a woman. Do everything for everyone, not for yourself. Don't have too much of an opinion, just nod and agree. Because if you rock the boat, you will not be liked as a woman. So it's better to be pleasing than to be honest.
This is so good. And something that comes to mind right there is I actually think that the riskiest thing we could do in life is to play it safe. But is that even safe? Because it's inauthentic.
I just got off a call with a client. We were talking about this, and she was saying, I don't feel like anybody really knows me. And I said, well, how could anybody really know you? You're always in a performance. You perform at work, you perform with your lover, you perform with your friends, you perform half the time for me. Of course you don't feel intimacy because you're not showing who you really are. No one can connect with you if you don't show me who you really are.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny because not the same, but when I was reinventing myself and I was going to step into this, I had no following, no celebrity friends, none of that stuff. But I made one guarantee to myself, because I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I lived in an inauthentic frequency for a very long time. I said, if I'm going to do this for the first time in my life, I'm going to show up as the real, raw, authentic, strange cat that I am. And at least if I fail, I feel being myself. And I can live with that. I didn't think I'd fail, but I just said that to myself. And the irony is when I finally started to show up like that, that's when the world began to see me. And that's when everybody connected. So for anyone listening, Don't wait, start now, being yourself. And it's true that you might lose some people, but the right people will gravitate, and life will kind of act as a true authentic filter, and the wrong people will flock elsewhere.
You better believe it, because when I because I was just doing private practice pre-COVID, but during COVID, I started to bring a lot of my clients online, and then I was doing groups on Zoom. Then I thought, let's try my hand on Instagram, TikTok. Let's see what this is all about. People kind of laughed. They said, oh man, not for nothing, no one's really going to be interested following a 50-year-old woman on Instagram and TikTok. And I thought, I don't believe that to be true. So here I am, being my most authentic self, saying things that I know could be really edge pressing. And in fact, the opposite has been true. People have gone crazy. They love what I'm putting out for content. So I agree with you. The more we show up as our most authentic selves, the right people come along and the others fall away. And that's perfect, in both directions. It's perfect.
I think what you're doing is so beautiful and so important. And something that comes to mind straight off the cuff that you're doing for so many women is you're giving them permission, right, to be themselves, to not get nagged out by how they're supposed to feel by society at a certain age or whatnot.
No, it's a crazy insult to think that, and because I was watching my husband age, who's 6 years older than me, it was literally a non-event. If anything, he went up in what would be considered more distinguished looking, more sexy as he aged. And I thought, well, why in the hell can't that be true for me too? And so I remember thinking, well, Amanda, if you want that to be true, then make it so. And so I just decided to make it so. I decided to make aging the sexiest thing. I said, I'm never doing Botox. I'm never doing fillers. I'm not coloring my hair. And do you believe, here I am. I've never felt so relevant, so powerful, so beautiful, because I'm my most authentic self expressed on the outside as well, instead of hiding and being ashamed of aging, because I'm not ashamed that I'm here. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
And to be honest with you, like, what's the sexiest thing in the world? Someone that's just owning it, either sex, right? Someone that just owns it. That's the sexiest thing in the world.
Absolutely. It really is the frequency that magnetizes people, is the authenticity.
Yeah, this is so good. And something else that you talk about that's kind of correlated is that the most dangerous people are the ones who encourage you to settle beyond your standards. So how can someone become aware and look out for that, and maybe start to, I don't want to say necessarily separate themselves, but be conscious of who's in their circle?
My rule of thumb, listen, I have one tattoo and it says Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because you are. So there's nobody who loves community. There's no one who loves outreach, philanthropy, all kinds of different relationships as much as I do, truly. And I've been an activist before and I haven't been an activist at heart. I was an activist from a young age. So, but I also understand that I'm probably not going to take big directions in my life from people who haven't put themselves outside of their comfort zones. Like, I have some well-intended family members who haven't left the town that I grew up in, who are defined by fear and what will everyone else think. And so I'm certainly not going to listen to them when it comes to suggestions about what I should or shouldn't do, or why I keep putting myself out in the public the way that I do. So I'm not going to I can love them, but I'm not. So I'm boundaried in what I absorb from certain people. Like, I know there are certain people who love me and are well-intended, but I'm not going to take directions from them. But you better believe I'm going to take directions possibly from people who have a really successful outcome in something similar that I'm interested in. I'm going to pay attention, whether it's a relationship, whether it's parenting, whether it's business. I'm going to pay attention and see if I can learn from them, because they've clearly done something right.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean we have to take those people out of our lives. It doesn't mean we don't love them. Often it's well-intended family members. We just have to understand where they're coming, right? Where they're coming from.
True. Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt, so to speak. And based on my experience, usually it is the closest ones to you. They're actually probably, I would say, they're trying to protect you.
Yeah.
But they're stuck in the matrix.
Exactly. And you're not going to find me on a Saturday evening inviting people over who just bitch and complain. You're going to see my living room filled with thinkers and people who are talking about ideas instead of things, instead of people.
You're my people. This is awesome. This is all I want to talk about. Like, these are my dinner conversations. to the extent that my fiance sometimes will be like, Craig, can we shut it down and like turn on something and like turn our brain off? I'm like, we have to. This is all, I just want to be around thinkers, big ideas, growth, laugh a little bit, good energy.
Uh,
Actually, my biggest pet peeve in life is right now is negativity. Like I'm not here for that.
no,
And it doesn't
absolutely.
mean that I don't understand what's going on, but I would rather stay in this bubble of serenity.
Yeah. And I'm not putting my head in the sand to the realities of the world and what's happening. But I also know that me spinning out in negativity doesn't cause any kind of a change. The work I'm doing, one woman at a time,
Yeah.
actually has a ripple effect of change. So this is where I'm going to invest all my time and energy.
Yes. You said it was a few years ago. Was it during the pandemic when the hair thing happened at the
It
salon?
happened before that,
Like when?
6 years ago.
So did you like what other changes did that epiphany have? Like were you a totally different person before then?
No, actually, it's funny. A big TV show wanted me to come on next week. And because I don't have some big dramatic story, sounds like inspiration alone sometimes isn't enough for television. I literally, you know what it was, Craig, is I asked myself that question. Do I actually believe that I'm only relevant and beautiful if I don't show my gray hair? And my answer was no, I don't believe that at all. And so that's what prompted me deciding to make that change. And so there was nothing dramatic. There wasn't like a health scare and I didn't want the chemicals. There wasn't this too much finances being spilled into this area. It truly was. For me, I decided to make aging spiritual. So it's been a huge spiritual journey for me to meet myself in the mirror every day in a world that tells me I'm going to be irrelevant if I look like this.
Okay, now we're going spiritual. This is gonna get awesome. I love all things spiritual right now. Hell yes to this. How big are you into like energy and like quantum and manifesting and all that stuff?
It's everything. I mean, I go to network care. I go to network care chiropractor. Do you know what that is?
No.
There's an unbelievable person in Manhattan. I'll reach out to you after. I'll send you his contact. You have to start going. It opens up, without getting into too much, it basically opens up all the energetic blocks in your spinal cord, that memories and traumas that you are carrying from years past that you don't even cognitively have access to. So our body, it's opening that network. So energetically, our body is working in concert with all of us, the other parts of our body, like our mind, our heart, and our soul. It brings the energetic body that you are untapped into online more. So I do network care every Monday morning, which is all energy. I teach women in the first couple of weeks. I do 6-month masterminds. I teach them in the very first couple of weeks. What are the things you most desire? Those are probably going to change after our journey here together. You're going to have desires you didn't know, but give me one. Let me show you how to make it happen. Let me show you. And I call it womanifesting. So I teach them the principles for womanifesting and the way that I do it in my own life. And these women are just beside themselves. They're like, Amanda, I never could have imagined I could hold that kind of energetic power. And so, teaching them the fundamentals of how to do that. Absolutely. I'm into all of that.
I imagine there's a couple people listening right now. Like I hear this often, manifesting and stuff like that. How do you define what it means to manifest something? And also, what's something tangible someone can use to start manifesting blessings into their life?
Yeah. So the first thing is you have to get really clear on what is it that I desire. And so if you desire, let's just say for sake of it, because a lot of people desire this. If you desire a thick bank account, like a really padded bank account, you desire money. First of all, I do believe that what you desire, I do believe energetically, universally, it should be also attached to greater good for it to have probably more success of coming to you. So if your desire to have money in the bank account is also in service to the greater good of the world, and it's going to not just be in your pockets, then I think you have a better chance of manifesting this. But let's just use that one for a baseline. So you desire to have more money in your bank account. Okay, great. Why do you think you desire that? Well, I think I desire that because it'll make me feel more secure. Okay, great. Well, what else? How do you imagine you'll feel with that? Oh, I think I'll feel more abundant in my life. Okay, great. You'll feel more secure. You'll feel more abundant. Okay, great. And so then as you go about your days, your days are going on. And what I ask people to do is be an observation of yourself multiple times a day. Train yourself, catch yourself, pause yourself. And when you're in the middle of working, driving your car, going for a walk, making dinner, whatever you're doing, and pause and pay attention to, do I right now, energetically, in this exact act that I am conducting myself in, do I feel abundant? Do I feel secure? Do I feel safe? So you're asking yourself, do I feel the things that I hope to feel when I attain that money? And if the answer is no, I don't. I feel frustrated. I feel irritated. I feel overwhelmed. What can you do right now in the next 3 seconds to call in more abundance, to call in more safety, to call in more security, the things that you want to have when you get that money? So in that moment, and then I help them break down really tangible things that they could do right then and there to feel more abundant in that moment. And then that is actually the biggest key to manifesting, is you create the feeling now. You want abundance, you create abundance in every single situation of your life, and you mine for it and you mine for it until you land on it. Because what we're doing is we're creating that energy, because that energy will attract long-term the bigger bank account, because you are now an energetic match for getting yourself to abundance. We don't wait for the money to come into the bank account to say, now I feel abundant. We create the abundance and we walk every step of our life that way. And then everything that we desire comes.
That really is the cheat code. I love this. I love you. And so many people think that they'll activate the lit soul once they get the padded bank account.
Never.
But the irony is you activate the lit soul now, and then you end up manifesting what you thought you needed to have that lit soul.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So I know there's some eye rolling, and you're like, okay, well, how do I, if I'm in between jobs and I don't have money and I'm stressed out and I'm fearing paying my bills, how can I feel more secure, safe, and abundant in that specific situation? What's something they could do?
Something they can do. I mean, the most baseline would feel the air in their chest. That's abundance. You have air moving through your chest. Do a Google search in the industry that you're excited about. Look at job applications. See the abundance in front of you on the screen of all the openings. Might not be the most ideal position that you're wanting to apply for, but there is. You have to start looking through a different lens. We always seek what we want to find. Like anything I tell myself is what I'm going to find. I'm going to have evidence for it all day long. If I want to feel scarcity, I will be pissed that it's raining. I'll be mad that there's mosquitoes. But if I seek abundance, I'll be so happy that my plants are getting, fresh rain. I don't have to go out there and water them. I'll be excited that the mosquitoes are abundant because it means that I live somewhere warm and tropical. It's like, we always find evidence for the message we are feeding our brain. So if you feel like, yeah, but I'm in between jobs, there's just nothing's going to happen for me, you better believe nothing's probably going to happen with that energy.
So it's like a muscle. You have to work at it, and also transform from reactive to proactive. Like go home, Google something, realize like, wait, there is options out there. And then you shift your frequency, and then you become more of that vibrational match for the good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this stuff is so good. This stuff is really, it's funny. Up until a couple years ago, I didn't really buy into this stuff. I was always a mindset guy, hardest worker in the room, through and through. And then something happened a few years back, and I decided to lean in, really buy into the secret and all that stuff, and go deeper. And now it's like, for me, something that I work on every single day, and this is my understanding of it, I'd love to hear yours, is to find that balance between the masculine and the feminine energy. And based on my definition, is the masculine is like go, do, grind. And the feminine is more be and allow and call it in. And there's that sweet spot in the middle, because I think you need both. And that's when you're just a match, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It is the most beautiful place to be. And as a woman, I run a lot masculine. I really have to. It's been a practice for me in the past several years to go more into my feminine. But I felt like because of my life circumstances, my husband was a global traveler, working for a large company, that I had to be in my masculine a lot, working, raising, young children on my own, essentially, because he was gone, only home on the weekends. So only in the last few years, my kids have moved out. I don't have as much pressure around taking care of them anymore. And I'm really in my business. I use my masculine a lot to run the back end of business, but, I've got team for that as well. But I find that my work front facing with my clients is very feminine. Like it's so feminine that it's very ritualistic, beautiful, ancient ritual, lots of ceremony, endless intention, because the modern day woman has really not a lot of access to that. We just don't have a lot of women who are modern day women in a modern world. I'm not living under a tree fort, somewhere.
Yeah.
And teaching this, which there's nothing wrong with women who are doing that. I just think I haven't yet found the blend of a woman living a very modern lifestyle with a lot of really ancient practice and philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. Earlier we were talking about how you're a big speaker on some really big stages, but oftentimes you'll go to an event and they might have an agenda and they want you to deliver it, but you have something else in mind. You want to do things a little bit differently, a little bit unorthodox, more your way. Can you give any insight on what that is? Like, what is your way, or what can people look forward to?
If I have to perform and be more light, more appealing, negate certain words that are, I think, very important to say, then it's a no for me. And it is because there are some really important things that need to be said. We're not in a real good state as far as the state of the world for women, especially even with what's happening in our country here in America. There's so much. There's not a lot of time for lightheartedness. There's not a lot of time for being funny or making jokes. And so I've just decided, it's become really clear to me in the last year that I am going to build the matriarchal stage to speak on, because no one is going to change my words, tell me what I can or cannot say, because I have a very serious message. And for every client that I have worked with, me not curtailing the truth has been the most helpful for them and for my own life. And I think that we as a world right now, we need a mother. We need like a fierce mother to come in and say some of the really hard things. I'm not in favor of like, we're always going to stroke each other's backs and be, and I've gotten so much flack from certain women are like, what? That's terrible. That's harsh. But I'm like, I think that we're tiptoeing around and a lot is not being said because women are so worried about hurting each other's feelings. But I believe so much in women. I believe women are stronger than that we really need someone to say the hard truths.
Can you tell us one thing that's not being said? This is awesome.
Can I tell you one thing that's not being said? This is a hard one. This is one thing that's not being said.
Yes, please.
Is women are filling their bodies, their faces, everything with toxic chemicals. And we wonder why the cancer rates are higher for women than men. We wonder why women are struggling so much with their health. Because everyone is running around with one mission. I have to look better. I have to look younger. Everyone is seeking some bullshit destination. And that they, again, just like manifesting, they think they're going to get there. And then that's going to be, now I'm going to feel good about myself. Most women that I have seen have gotten on a train, a toxic beauty culture train, and their whole life, it's like a freight train just going, and all that they care about is that number on the scale, how many wrinkles are on their face, how much is showing in regards to aging. And I'm watching woman after woman after woman lose herself. And all these toxic chemicals, all these diet tricks, all of these things that in the end don't matter at all, that it's like the devil. It is the devil that most women are losing their lives to.
I'll tell you what. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say,
please.
Yeah, reality TV, but more specifically social media, which there's a lot of good to be had in social media with the right relationship. I think that creates such a platform of comparison, and that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, but yes, but also like I tell women all the time, like, oh, I just feel so bad about myself. I said, okay, tell me right now, what do you do in your free time? How do you spend your free time? And they tell me, oh, sometimes I just scroll or I watch Netflix. I do this, I do that. I'm online shopping. Okay, what do you love to do? Like if we could talk about your soul, what does your soul ache for? What is like something you love doing when you were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old as a little girl? Help them identify with that and then get back into that in their life. Because if you keep consuming all of this other stuff, you're naturally going to be in this comparison. What if we put our screens down and stop comparing? And actually, I always say to my husband, the reason I never watch TV, I'm not interested in watching other people live their lives. I'm too busy living my own. So I help these women go out and live their lives and stop looking at all the things that they are or are not in comparison to. When you go fall in love and do something that lights your soul up, you won't even care about all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it happens over and over and over again. It sets women free.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I agree with you. People should stop scrolling a little bit and start living a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. One thing that I was able to do finally after 35 years in the pandemic, which played a pivotal role in me being able to reinvent myself, was for the first time in my life, I began to really love myself. And, you know, I forgave myself for all the stuff that I've done, for not being at where I'd hoped I'd been at that point and all that stuff. And just to be clear, it doesn't mean that I approved of everything, but I accepted it. And as a result, I was able to move forward. And it was just so liberating. You talk about this a lot. How important is it? And how can women start to love themselves a little bit more?
Yeah, and it's really something we do not teach women how to love themselves. And I just actually recorded a 25-day program that I'm going to be releasing next month. The whole thing being every day, giving you one very simple, very tangible way to fall more in love with yourself. But for me, that journey started several years ago with one, for the sake of today's podcast, one really simple thing. And I know it sounds so trite and so ridiculous, but it literally changed my nervous system in probably 3 months of doing it. And I've watched it happen to countless women over and over and over again this past several years. As I start the morning, when I get up, I don't touch my phone. I don't interact with the world in any way. I walk straight to my bathroom, straight to the mirror, and I greet myself with so much intention. Just my eyes focused inside of my eyes. I'm not getting distracted by, oh my gosh, I look so tired. Oh my gosh, I look so this or that. I look at myself and I begin my morning with so much reverence towards myself. And I see the soul. I don't see this three-dimensional human in front of the mirror. I see the soul of me. And when you start your day like that, it's unbelievable how insulated you become from the outside world cheap remarks about what it means to be a woman who's aging or whatever, because you've already filled yourself up on such a soul level that all of that is it's so unimportant, and it really doesn't have any impact. So loving myself begins with, I don't wait for other people to approve of me. I don't wait for other people to love me. It has to begin with me. It has to begin with me. You know, I know a lot of women go around thinking that the more they do for other people, then they'll be able to feel worthy and loved. And that's such a slippery slope and such a trap, because then the message is you have to earn love. And humans are inherently worthy simply because.
You really are a force. It's unbelievable. The world needs you big time. You are in your power, and you are fulfilling your assignment right now.
It feels that way. I literally spring out of bed with like this feeling. I grew up Catholic, so we celebrated Christmas. It's this feeling of like Christmas morning as a little girl. That's how I wake up every morning and greet the day, because I know that I get to do this beautiful work that I've just been called here to do. There's no other way around it. This is what I was meant to do.
I feel the same. And I have contrast. I know what it feels like to wake up and this again. I love this stuff. This is awesome. Yes. You mentioned, I'm just curious, straight off the cuff, how important is your faith to you? We talked a little bit about spirituality. You said you grew up Catholic. Does that play a big role in your life today?
It doesn't. I am very spiritual. I don't practice any kind of organized religion. I think the religion that I practice is that I believe God is in all of us. And I have clients from all over the world who practice every single religion. And when I'm interacting with another human being, that is a God moment. It's like my soul connecting with your soul. I don't know what is more beautiful and holy than that.
So good. And I feel the same. I grew up Jewish, but I'm not very religious, if I'm being honest. I think religion, kind of like politics, can be a little divisive. But like over the last few years specific, I just quadrupled down our relationship with God. And right now I'm taking a Kabbalah course, which is very interesting. And I like to I'm like a spiritual free agent right now. I like to get different things from different places, keep what I like and so forth. And it's just fun. It's beautiful.
I agree. I think the turnoff for me as I got older was I was looking for a woman. And I was like, where is the God for the daughters? You know, I hear he and him and he and him over and over in the apostles, and everything was he and him and father. And I thought, well, where's the mother? Where's the female leader? Where is the woman passing down the wisdom? And then when I really went on a real deep dive for well over 8 years, I ended up discovering, oh, her stories were not told. Her stories were ripped out and buried in the desert. I understand we didn't want women's stories told. And we still, and this is a whole nother avenue we could go down a different day, you know, writing a book right now and very deeply immersed into the medical system and women's voices, art and women's voices or lack thereof, studying a lot about Georgia O'Keeffe as really the first female painter and how she came to be and what she had to go through with the men, you know, in her circle in New York City and the resistance they had around her becoming one of the first female artists. We have kept women suppressed for a real long time. So only half the story gets told. When you go to church, if you are a woman sitting there, you're only hearing from one perspective. You're only hearing from the male's perspective. You're not hearing from the woman's. 72%, 72.9% of movies are directed and produced and written by men. You go to, that's why I don't even love the movies. I didn't even know that stat until a couple of years ago, but I always thought, where are the deeply developed characters? I want characters that are so nuanced, stories that are so complicated, like real humanity. And it always fell so flat for me. So I'm so done wasting my hours doing this. So I started doing some research and I said, oh, this is why it's been so unsatisfying for me, because it's not being written through the lens by which the diverse lens that I feel inside, that's not being portrayed on the big screen. The stories are usually of a very, you know, much more simple storyline.
Yeah. Love your whole vibe. It's funny because I've had a lot of big people on the podcast, like some of the highest achievers in the world, different actors, athletes, entrepreneurs. And one thing they often say to me, and I imagine you agree too, they said that they didn't, and women too, they didn't put it all together, really hit their stride until like their mid 40s and 50s. And it's like when I was a kid, I used to think 30 was old. And now it's like, God willing, I can't wait for my mid 40s or 50s. It just looks like such a beautiful time of life.
The clarity and the laser vision. And there's something that happens when for me, when that number 50 hit, there was like this voice in my ear. It's now or never, Amanda.
Urgency.
Yeah, exactly. It is now. We do the things now. We say the things now. We're not waiting any longer. So I do think if there's a passion, you end up feeling the urgency, because just by sheer numbers, if all goes well, my life is half over.
Yeah. But you also just get warmed up too.
Oh, in many ways. My daughter's like, well, Mom, you make 50 look so fun. She's only 20. But I said, yes, babe, this is really, the 40 to 50 has been the best decade so far for me. I can only imagine what 50 to 60 is going to be like.
You're like more alive than anyone I've interacted with in quite some time. It's a beautiful resonance that you have. And when I asked you superpower, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Like we're connected right now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll land the plane with this. Another thing that you talked about often, and I do too. A lot of people come on here like gurus, like, oh, add this to be more successful. But you talk a lot about letting go. And how important is that to let go? And also, what are some things that people should let go of?
Well, I think the first thing we should let go of is the opinions of others about our life. You know, I really think that everybody has come to where they are in life because of their own unique childhood, their own unique upbringing and beliefs that they decided to adopt. So I think that we get very paralyzed as humans if we assess from all our friends and family their opinions about what they think we should do, then we end up doing nothing. So I think one of the most important things, first and foremost, is let go of other people's opinions of how to live your life. And let go of this really strange belief that what are others going to think? We're all so busy. I mean, you're not that special is what I want to say to people. You're not so special that everyone's sitting in their homes every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, talking about you for hours on end. Like, you're really not. So don't worry about what they think. Go and live your one and only beautiful life. And for me, letting go has been a practice, you know, and I just spoke about it again a couple of weeks ago. to my mastermind group, and it was very emotional for me and even shocking for me. I woke up that morning with quite a heaviness on my heart. I'd been estranged from my father since I was 10 years old. He had left, and my husband found him, went on a search for him and found him a couple years before he died, and said that, while Amanda has such an amazing life in so many ways, there's still this hole in her heart. There's something that nothing else can replace. And I think seeing you would mean the world to her. And so I ended up seeing my dad for 5 days before he died. And I put in an entire lifetime in 5 days. It was 5 of the most powerful days of my entire life. And I had to let go of my anger. I had to let go of the resentment. And honestly, it wasn't fully about him. It was, I had to let go of it for me. I was in a prison. My heart was hurting all the time. And then, he died a couple of years ago. And then when I was teaching a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about forgiveness and letting go. And I was shocked to realize that morning when I woke up, and I didn't even know that it was his birthday, the anniversary of his birthday. It's amazing how our bodies remember these things. It was imprinted somehow. I only learned that hours later when I looked at the calendar and put it all together. But what I'd said to my clients was that even me, who has done all of this work around such intentional forgiveness and letting go, what I've realized is there are some hurts that have many layers, that it's just another layer deeper. And every time I think I've really let it all go, this is one of those in my life. I just have to let go a little bit more. I have to forgive a little bit more and lean into that, because it ends up opening and accessing something in me that resentment is clogging my system, and I have to release it so that I can go on and do this beautiful work I have to do as a mother, as a partner, as a sister, as a community person, as a leader.
Yeah, unbelievable. And fear of other people's opinions, right? That's special. It's so funny. I was actually thinking today, in between meetings, I was walking my dog, and I started not bringing my phone when I do that, just to be so mindful and present. And I was just in thought, and I was thinking, what is really like the number one thing that prevents people from going for it, whatever it is for them? And oftentimes people will say the word fear or unworthiness, but I really believe, and I just had this epiphany today, that the number one thing subconsciously is they're scared of what people are going to think, or what they might say to them, or if they look silly in front of other people. I really believe that.
I agree with you. But what if we change the narrative? What if, instead of what will people think, I love to play with the energy of, what if I inspire somebody? What if some woman sees me live this brave? Craig, I have so many DMs, I could never even read them all, from women thanking me for this journey, thanking me for my words, thanking me for going gray, thanking me for leading this revolution of aging naturally and spiritually. So what I thought, maybe on some level, what are other people going to think? Oh my gosh, what are people going to think? How about it's going to change? Like you said earlier, it's permission for them.
Yes.
So let's lean into that. Yes, there may be some people who think it's crazy, but that's okay, because again, it's never the people who are doing the really hard things. They're going to call you crazy. They're going to be like, damn, that is brave. My God, you're amazing.
You nailed it. There's nobody in the world that I know that's winning that's going to talk down to somebody that's going for it, because they're too busy winning and living. It's only people in the cheap seats. And the paradigm shift that you said right there, I think is so important, because most people think about what can go wrong. And I encourage everybody to double down on, but what if it goes right? What if you fly? How good can you stand it? Right? What are people going to think when you actually elevate and inspire them? Imagine that ripple effect, and give that thought energy in life, right?
Absolutely. And I even believe, I go as far as to say, I really don't believe in failure. I think if you keep trying at something, really working your craft, there's no such thing as failure or no, as far as I'm concerned. There's just more evidence and data on your path of where you need to pivot, where you need to make changes. The only time we fail is when we give up, when we stop. But I don't believe even some of my clients who are back out in the dating world, it's like, I'm never going to find the person. I'm like, you're sure as hell not going to find them if you quit. Every time you meet somebody, you're getting clearer and clearer on whether or not that, okay, so that person was a no, so what? It's just not an energetic match. It's getting you closer and closer. So I don't even believe in failure. I really don't.
Failure to me means you're trying.
Yes.
Right? It's a prerequisite. Like you said, failure, that's finite. You quit or you're dead. But if you're failing, you're trying. I think really the only way you fail is if you don't try.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have like a dopamine hit right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's good to be in good energy, isn't it? I feel the same about you.
Yeah. Thank you. Our audience is really, really loyal and engaging. They love to support. What's the best way for all of them, our community, to support you? And what are you specifically most excited about right now?
What am I most excited
Where do I
about?
begin, right?
Yeah, there's so much and so many avenues of my life. But what I'm most excited about is I am pivoting. I'm running 2 big retreats this month. I am finishing my book. So all these great things. But what I'm most excited about is I'm pivoting my business to reach millions, because I've been sitting in front of for years, I used to be sitting in a chair in an office seeing clients before the pandemic. And then I went on to Zoom, and now I see women globally all over the world, and large masses of women. And what I have realized is I have women reaching out to me from all over the world that it's time for this to go global. So there's a huge behind the scenes rollout of what's coming for 2024. And it's going to be, it's a global impact where I will be accessible to people around the world.
Yeah. Real quickly, just straight off the cuff, you've done so much great stuff over the last couple of years. And it's interesting because we kind of just finished what I'm looking at as like the first 3-year story arc. And instead of just going like masculine, I'm taking a second because I really want to get clarity on what does that next level of expansion really look like? Like what do I feel called to do? I'm going to be very intentional. How do you figure out like what is that next level of expansion? If you like, do you have a process for that?
It's just listening and paying attention, and I run a free, I kind of do like a Zoom session for free from women around the world once a month, just where they can come on and ask questions. I want to just be accessible during that one time a month. And I have women calling from literally, they're calling me. It's 4:30 in the morning right now in India. And we stayed up, and I have a group of girlfriends here at my house because we wanted, and they're crying. And they're like, we wanted to tell you, we love you. Thank you for what you're doing for women. Please come to India. Other women calling in from Vietnam, women calling in from Yemen, women calling in from Ireland, Switzerland, Dubai, all over the world, saying, thank you for what you're doing from women. And it became real obvious, real fast, that this is much bigger. I need them to have more access than just watching TikTok or Instagram. I want to be in rooms with these women. So I feel the calling, like I have chills right now. So I just listen. I put my finger on the pulse, and I listen, and I know, because Craig, between you and me, my business is so insanely successful. Somebody might think it was ridiculous to make such a big pivot, but I'm in such profound trust. When I listen, I trust, I feel it in my body. I know this is what's next, that I'm willing to table all of this, turn in that direction, and build something brand new, because I want to have this message in the hands of millions and millions of women globally.
I think that's so powerful and so beautiful. And most people make a big change when something goes wrong, but you're making a big pivot while stuff is going right. And I just love it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is so much fun. Amanda, hang out for 1 second. I want to connect with you after. I want to tell you the definition of being in alignment, paradigm shifting, and unbelievable perspective. I can personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today. I mean, I could talk to you all day.
Oh, that was so good.
That was so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. How did you find me? Just on Instagram?
How did I find you? Just on Instagram?
Yeah. Did you find me on Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your work is unbelievable.
Thank you. Likewise.
And I can't wait to share you with some of my audience. They're going to be obsessed with you in 2 seconds.